Welcome to True Crime Case Files. Today, we explore a tragic story where a cheating husband divorced his wife after her terminal cancer diagnosis, only to meet a gruesome end shortly thereafter. This is the story of Jared Mitchell, a man whose life and death reveal the dark and twisted consequences of betrayal. Jared Mitchell was a 52-year-old man who lived in Greensboro, North Carolina. He was a senior executive at a large company, known for his charm and success in the business world. Jared had worked hard to climb the corporate ladder and enjoyed the perks of his high-paying job. He was often seen in nice suits and driving his luxury car around town. Jared was sociable and loved attending fancy events and parties. However, people close to him knew he had a dark side. He was narcissistic and had a long history of cheating on his wife, Amanda. Amanda Mitchell, 50, was a former high school chemistry teacher. She was kind-hearted and dedicated to her students. Amanda had a passion for science and loved sharing her knowledge with young minds. She was well-liked by her colleagues and students alike. Amanda and Jared had been married for over 20 years, and they had faced many ups and downs together. Amanda was known for her resilience, always pushing through tough times with a smile on her face. In September 2018, Amanda's world was turned upside down when she was diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer. The news was devastating, but Amanda tried to stay strong. She continued to live her life as normally as possible, spending time with friends and family. However, just days after her diagnosis, Jared asked for a divorce. He had long been seeing a much younger woman, Jenna Parker Breen, in secret. Jenna was an aspiring influencer, known for her posts on Instagram and YouTube. She often shared tips on how to snag wealthy older men, boasting about her desire for a glamorous lifestyle. Amanda was heartbroken by Jared's betrayal. She had always been supportive of him, even when he made mistakes. Now, in her time of greatest need, he had abandoned her. Despite her illness, Amanda continued to push through, supported by her close friend and colleague, Ryan Hart. Ryan often helped Amanda with daily tasks and provided a shoulder to cry on. In the days leading up to Jared's death, he was excited about his new life with Jenna. He was seen around Greensboro, dining at upscale restaurants and shopping at places like Nordstrom and Macy's. Jared seemed carefree and happy, looking forward to a future with his young girlfriend. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, and Jared was unaware of the deadly consequences that were about to unfold. On a late night in early September 2018, Jared Mitchell's lifeless body was discovered in his Greensboro home. It was around 10:30 p.m. when Brian Hart, a close friend and colleague of Amanda Mitchell, knocked on Jared's door. Amanda, worried about Jared, had asked Brian to check on him. Brian was always supportive, especially during Amanda's tough times, and he agreed to help. When Brian arrived at Jared's house, he noticed the lights were still on. He knocked several times, but there was no answer. Growing concerned, Ryan used the spare key Amanda had given him. As he opened the door, he was met with an eerie silence. The house was neat, with everything in its place, but something felt off. Brian called out Jared's name, but got no response. He walked into the living room and saw Jared sitting in his favorite armchair, a glass of whiskey on the table beside him. At first glance, it looked like Jared had fallen asleep, but as Brian got closer, he realized something was terribly wrong. Jared's skin was pale, and his body was completely still. Panic set in as Brian checked for a pulse but found none. He quickly called 911, his hands shaking. The dispatcher guided him through CPR, but it was clear that Jared was already gone. Ryan was in shock, unable to believe what he was seeing. He had always disliked Jared for how he treated Amanda, but he never wished for this. The first responders arrived within minutes. EMTs confirmed Jared was dead and called the police. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering about what could have happened. News spread quickly through the community, and soon local media outlets, including WFMY News 2, reported on the mysterious death of Jared Mitchell. Everyone in Greensboro was talking about it, speculating on the cause of his sudden demise. As the investigation continued, the police knew they had a complex case on their hands. The calm and neat crime scene contrasted with the shocking nature of Jared's death, leaving everyone wondering who could have wanted him dead and why. When the police arrived at Jared Mitchell's house on that September night in 2018, they quickly took control of the situation. Detective Lisa Harper led the team. Known for her experience and sharp mind, she wasted no time in starting the investigation. The house was quiet and tidy, with no signs of a struggle. The living room, where Jared's body was found, looked normal at first glance. Jared was seated in his favorite armchair with a glass of whiskey on the table next to him. The scene seemed peaceful, but Detective Harper knew better. She ordered her team to gather evidence and take photos of everything. The toxicology test on the whiskey revealed the cause of death: rat poison. Jared had been poisoned, and the glass of whiskey was the delivery method. This discovery turned the investigation into a homicide case. Detective Harper and her team focused on the details, looking for any clues that might point to the killer. They dusted for fingerprints on the glass and other surfaces around the room. They collected samples from the whiskey bottle and checked for any signs of tampering. The method of poisoning suggested that the killer knew Jared's habits well, as the poison was mixed into his favorite drink. Detective Harper also interviewed neighbors and anyone who had seen Jared recently. Many recalled seeing him around town, dining at local restaurants like the Green Valley Grill and shopping at Friendly Center. Some remembered seeing him with his new girlfriend, Jenna Parker Breen, who was much younger and very active on social media. The police also looked into Jared's recent divorce from Amanda Mitchell. They knew that such personal turmoil could be a motive for murder. Amanda, a former chemistry teacher, had the knowledge to carry out such a crime, but her terminal illness and devastated state made her an unlikely suspect at first glance. As they dug deeper, the police discovered that Jared had been involved in several affairs, creating a long list of potential enemies. His new relationship with Jenna, his sudden divorce from Amanda, and his overall lifestyle painted a picture of a man with many secrets and enemies. The police used advanced methods to analyze the crime scene, including forensic tests and detailed interviews. They mapped out Jared's last days, trying to identify who had the opportunity and motive to poison him. The investigation was thorough, with Detective Harper leading the charge, determined to uncover the truth behind Jared Mitchell's death. The media, including local stations like Fox 8, followed the story closely. Greensboro residents were eager for answers, speculating on who could have committed such a cold-blooded act. As the police worked tirelessly, the pieces of the puzzle slowly began to come together, pointing them towards the person responsible for Jared Mitchell's murder. The first suspect in Jared Mitchell's murder was his ex-wife, Amanda Mitchell. Amanda was 50 years old and had recently been diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer. She was a former high school chemistry teacher, known for her kindness and dedication. Her students loved her, and her colleagues respected her. Despite her illness, Amanda remained strong and resilient. Having been kicked out of the home she shared with Jared, she lived in a modest home in Greensboro, not far from where she used to teach. Amanda was devastated when Jared divorced her just days after her diagnosis. They had been married for over 20 years, and she had always supported him, even through his infidelities. Jared's betrayal cut deep, especially when he left her for a much younger woman, Jenna Parker Breen, when she needed him the most. Amanda's friends and family described her as heartbroken but trying to make the most of the time she had left. When the police questioned Amanda, she was calm and cooperative, though her voice was hoarse due to her cancer. Detective Lisa Harper, who led the investigation, noted Amanda's composed demeanor. Amanda explained that she had been at home, resting due to her illness, on the night of Jared's death. She expressed her sorrow over Jared's passing, despite their recent split. Amanda's motive for murder seemed clear. She had every reason to be angry and hurt by Jared's actions. However, her illness made it hard to believe she had the strength or energy to carry out such a plan. The police were also aware that Amanda's background in chemistry gave her the knowledge to use poison. Detective Harper and her team dug deeper into Amanda's life. They interviewed her friends, neighbors, and colleagues. Many described Amanda as a loving and caring person, devoted to her family and students. They couldn't imagine her committing such a crime, even with her broken heart. The police also looked into Amanda's medical records, confirming her terminal diagnosis. This evidence seemed to support her claim of being too weak to commit murder. However, the police couldn't ignore the possibility that Amanda might have used her knowledge and connections to get someone else to do the dirty work for her. The community was shocked by the turn of events, with many sympathizing with Amanda's plight. People speculated on whether she could have been driven to such an act out of sheer desperation and pain. As the investigation continued, Detective Harper kept Amanda on the suspect list, but knew they needed more evidence to either clear her or prove her guilt. The search for the truth behind Jared Mitchell's murder was far from over, and the police were determined to uncover all the facts. The second suspect in Jared Mitchell's murder was Jenna Parker Breen, Jared's new girlfriend. Jenna was 24 years old and an aspiring influencer. She had a large following on Instagram and YouTube, where she shared tips on fashion, beauty, and dating wealthy older men. Jenna was known for her ambitious and opportunistic nature, often flaunting her glamorous lifestyle online. She had moved to Greensboro recently to be with Jared, and their relationship was the talk of the town. Jenna and Jared had met at a charity event in August 2018. Jared was immediately taken by her charm and good looks, and they quickly began a relationship. Jenna saw Jared as a ticket to a luxurious life and didn't hesitate to leave her old life behind. Their relationship progressed quickly, with Jared divorcing Amanda to be with Jenna. When the police questioned Jenna, she appeared nervous and defensive. She insisted she had no reason to harm Jared, claiming they were planning their future together. Detective Lisa Harper, leading the investigation, noticed Jenna's agitation and decided to dig deeper into her background. The police found that Jenna had a history of dating older wealthy men. Her social media was filled with photos of fancy dinners at restaurants like Printworks Bistro and shopping sprees at Friendly Center. Jenna had often spoken about the importance of financial security and had a large following of young women who admired her lifestyle. Jenna's possible motive for murder was financial gain. Jared had a significant life insurance policy, and with his sudden death, Jenna stood to receive a large sum of money. This raised suspicions about whether she could have killed Jared for his wealth. However, Jenna denied any involvement, stating she loved Jared and was devastated by his death. The police also looked into Jenna's recent activities. They interviewed her friends and followers, trying to piece together her whereabouts on the night of Jared's murder. Some of Jenna's friends mentioned that she had been talking about moving to a bigger city, like Charlotte or Atlanta, which fueled the police's suspicions further. Her followers were shocked, with many expressing disbelief that Jenna could be involved in such a crime. Jenna's image as a glamorous influencer took a hit as people began to question her true motives. Despite Jenna's denials, the police couldn't ignore the possibility that she had killed Jared for his money. Detective Harper knew they needed concrete evidence to either clear Jenna or prove her guilt. The investigation continued, with the police scrutinizing every detail of Jenna's life and relationship with Jared, determined to uncover the truth. The third suspect in Jared Mitchell's murder was Brian Hart, Amanda's colleague and close friend. Brian was 35 years old and worked as a high school chemistry teacher, just like Amanda. He was known for his compassion and support, especially towards Amanda during her illness. Brian often helped Amanda with daily tasks and was vocal about his disdain for Jared's actions, making him a potential suspect. Brian and Amanda had worked together for several years and had become close friends. When Amanda was diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer, Brian was there for her, providing both emotional and practical support. Many people saw Brian as a kind and caring individual who went out of his way to help others. However, his open criticism of Jared's behavior raised questions about his involvement in the murder. When the police interrogated Brian, he was calm and cooperative. He explained that he had been at home grading papers on the night of Jared's death. Detective Lisa Harper, who led the investigation, noted Brian's composed demeanor but decided to delve deeper into his relationship with Amanda and Jared. The police discovered that Jared had hired Brian to spy on Amanda and steal what little money was left to her after the divorce. This revelation painted a different picture of Brian. Although he had seemed supportive, his actions suggested a more complicated motive. Brian had financial problems and could have seen an opportunity in Jared's death to benefit himself or to help Amanda. Detective Harper and her team examined Brian's financial records and found that he had been struggling with debt. This financial stress, combined with his loyalty to Amanda, made Brian a strong suspect. They also looked into his background, checking if he had the knowledge and means to poison Jared. As a chemistry teacher, Brian had access to various chemicals, including rat poison. The police interviewed Brian's colleagues and neighbors. Many described him as a dedicated teacher and a good friend, but some mentioned his growing frustration with his financial situation. This frustration could have pushed him to take drastic measures. The community was shocked to learn that someone so close to Amanda could be a suspect. People began to question whether Brian's support for Amanda was genuine or if it was part of a larger scheme. Despite Brian's calm exterior, the police couldn't ignore the evidence pointing towards his possible involvement. Detective Harper knew that they needed more concrete proof to either clear Brian or charge him with a crime. The investigation continued, with the police scrutinizing every aspect of Brian's life and his interactions with both Amanda and Jared, determined to uncover the truth behind Jared Mitchell's murder. Hey, true crime case solvers, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case, or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Stay safe, true crime case solvers. On September 15, 2018, the week after Jared Mitchell's death, new evidence emerged that changed the course of the investigation. It was a sunny afternoon around 2 p.m. when Detective Lisa Harper received a call from a local resident who lived in the same neighborhood as Jared and often walked her dog in the area. That day, she had found a suspicious item in the bushes near Jenna Parker Breen's apartment complex. She handed over a small, empty, unlabeled bottle to the police. Detective Harper immediately recognized the significance of this discovery. The bottle was carefully bagged as evidence and sent to the lab for analysis. The police hoped to find fingerprints or any other trace that could link the bottle to the killer. The results came back quickly. Fingerprints on the bottle matched those of Amanda Mitchell, Jared's ex-wife. This was a shocking turn of events, as Amanda had previously been considered too weak to carry out the murder herself. Detective Harper and her team re-examined Amanda's alibi and movements on the night of the murder. The police also analyzed surveillance footage from the area around Jenna's apartment. They found footage of Amanda visiting the complex a few days before Jared's death. This raised further questions about Amanda's involvement and whether she had tried to frame Jenna for the murder. Local news stations reported on the new developments. The community was buzzing with theories and speculation. Many were shocked that Amanda, who seemed so kind and loving, could be involved in such a heinous crime. Others believed it was a desperate act driven by her terminal illness and Jared's betrayal. Detective Harper focused on interviewing Amanda again, this time with the new evidence in hand. Amanda's demeanor changed. She seemed more nervous and less composed. She struggled to explain why her fingerprints were on the rat poison bottle. Amanda admitted to visiting Jenna's apartment complex, but claimed it was to confront Jenna about her relationship with Jared, not to plant evidence. The police also discovered that Amanda had researched poisons extensively in the months leading up to Jared's death. Her background as a chemistry teacher gave her the knowledge needed to plan and execute the poisoning. Detective Harper began to piece together a scenario where Amanda, driven by anger and a sense of betrayal, had orchestrated the murder to make it look like Jenna was the culprit. This new evidence put Amanda back in the spotlight as the primary suspect. The police intensified their investigation, gathering more details and building a stronger case against her. The discovery of the rat poison bottle near Jenna's apartment was the breakthrough they needed to move closer to solving the case and bringing Jared Mitchell's killer to justice. On September 20, 2018, after days of intense investigation and new evidence pointing toward Amanda Mitchell, the police made a decisive move. Detective Lisa Harper and her team had gathered enough information to identify Amanda as the primary suspect in Jared Mitchell's murder. They had found her fingerprints on the rat poison bottle and confirmed that she had visited Jenna Parker Breen's apartment complex just days before Jared's death. Amanda, who was battling the end stages of terminal esophageal cancer, was in a hospital in Greensboro. Despite her deteriorating health, the police needed to arrest her to charge her with Jared's murder. Detective Harper and her team arrived at the hospital around 11 a.m. with a warrant for Amanda's arrest. Amanda was in a private room, hooked up to various medical equipment. Her condition was critical, and her family was by her side. When the police entered the room, Amanda looked up with a mix of shock and resignation. Detective Harper carefully informed Amanda of her arrest and the charges against her. Amanda, frail and weak, did not resist. She understood the gravity of the situation and knew there was little she could do. As the police read Amanda her rights, her family members were visibly upset. They had been supporting her through her illness and were devastated to learn of the charges. Amanda's once calm demeanor now showed a hint of defeat and sadness. Despite her illness, Amanda was taken into custody, with the police making arrangements for her to be transported to the local jail for booking. The news of Amanda's arrest spread quickly. Local media outlets covered the dramatic turn of events live, showing footage of the police arriving at the hospital and Amanda being wheeled out in a wheelchair. The community was shocked to see Amanda, who had been seen as a victim of betrayal, now facing serious charges. Amanda's arrest was a significant moment in the investigation. The police believed that Amanda had carefully planned Jared's murder out of anger and a desire for revenge. Her knowledge of poisons from her chemistry background, combined with her recent actions, painted a clear picture of her involvement in the crime. The arrest marked the beginning of a new chapter in the case. With Amanda in custody, the focus shifted to the legal process and the trial that would determine her guilt or innocence. The community, still reeling from the shocking developments, awaited the next steps in the case with bated breath. Amanda Mitchell's trial for the murder of Jared Mitchell began in early October 2018, just weeks after her arrest. The trial was held at the Guilford County Courthouse in Greensboro, North Carolina. The courtroom was packed with media who were eager to cover the high-profile case. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Hannah Foster, argued that Amanda had meticulously planned Jared's murder out of anger and a desire for revenge. Foster presented evidence showing Amanda's fingerprints on the rat poison bottle and her visits to Jenna Parker Breen's apartment complex. She highlighted Amanda's knowledge of poisons from her time as a chemistry teacher and her motive rooted in betrayal and suffering. Foster's arguments painted a clear picture of Amanda as the mastermind behind the crime. Amanda's defense attorney, Robert Kane Clark, argued that Amanda's terminal illness had left her too weak to commit the murder. He suggested that someone else, possibly Jenna or Brian Hart, could have been responsible. Kane Clark claimed that Amanda's deteriorating health made it impossible for her to plan and execute such a crime. He tried to cast doubt on the evidence presented by the prosecution, but his arguments did little to sway the jury. The trial was emotional for everyone involved. Jared's family, including his children and close relatives, attended each day, visibly distressed by the proceedings. They had been waiting for justice for Jared and hoped for a verdict that would bring them some closure. Tragically, just 3 days before the verdict was to be announced, Amanda Mitchell passed away in the hospital from her terminal cancer. Her death was a somber end to a complicated and painful case. Despite her passing, the court decided to proceed with a posthumous verdict. The judge ruled that Amanda was guilty of Jared's murder based on the overwhelming evidence presented during the trial. The verdict was announced on October 12, 2018, and was covered extensively by local media. The community was divided in their reactions. Some felt that the posthumous conviction was a necessary step to ensure justice for Jared, while others felt conflicted about convicting someone who had already died. Amanda's death did not bring the closure that many had hoped for, but it marked the end of a tragic chapter for Jared's family. They could finally start to move on, knowing that the legal system had addressed the crime. The case left a lasting impact on the Greensboro community, highlighting the complex nature of justice and the human emotions involved in such a heart-wrenching story. After Amanda Mitchell's death and her posthumous conviction for the murder of Jared Mitchell, the lives of those involved continued to be affected by the case. Jenna Parker Breen, who had initially been a suspect in the case, saw her life turn back to a degree of normalcy after Amanda's arrest and conviction. The trial had left a mark on her reputation, with her followers and the public scrutinizing her every move. Jenna took a step back from her influencer career, focusing on rebuilding her life away from the public eye. She moved to a different city, seeking a fresh start and attempting to distance herself from the media attention that had followed the trial. Brian Hart, the third suspect in the case, was cleared of any wrongdoing once Amanda was convicted. However, the ordeal had taken a toll on him as well. His professional and personal life were affected by the intense scrutiny and the revelation of his involvement in spying on Amanda. He continued to work as a high school chemistry teacher but struggled with the damage to his reputation. The community's perception of him remained mixed, with some viewing him as a supportive friend and others questioning his motives. Detective Lisa Harper, who had led the investigation, reflected on the complexities of the case. She and her team received praise for their thorough work. But the case also highlighted the challenges of dealing with such high-profile investigations. The community recognized their dedication, and local media outlets frequently featured interviews with Detective Harper discussing the challenges and achievements of the case. In Greensboro, the case remained a topic of discussion. It served as a reminder of the deep personal impacts of crime and the legal system's role in seeking justice. The city tried to move on from the tragedy, but the story of Jared Mitchell and Amanda Mitchell continued to be a part of local history, remembered for its emotional depth and the lessons it imparted. This case is a stark reminder of how betrayal and desperation can lead to unimaginable acts. Jared Mitchell's story is a tragic tale of love, betrayal, and revenge, highlighting the dark depths of human emotion. Thank you for joining us on this episode of True Crime Case Files. Stay tuned for our next story, where we continue to explore the intricate and often harrowing world of true crime.